Hi, this is Skip Newberry, President and CEO of Technology Association of Oregon. Welcome to our podcast, Talk Tech to Me, a series of monthly conversations focused on and featuring the technology industry in Oregon and Southwest Washington. This month, our theme is Smart Cities, and I'm happy to introduce Mike Zeto, who's the Vice President with AT&T for the Internet of Things, and he's also the General Manager for Smart Cities, as well as a couple of other business units. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Skip. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Well, happy to have you in Portland. I know you're here for the Global Tech Jam and a variety of other ribbon-cutting celebrations as it relates to some of the important projects you guys have underway with the City of Portland. Would love to get your thoughts about smart cities generally and some of the trends that are going on there. And then would love to, later on in the conversation, get your thoughts on why you're excited about Portland.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think a couple good points that you made already. There's a lot of activity around smart cities here in the region, right? And let's talk more broadly than just Portland, because in your role, Technology Association of Oregon, I sit on the board of directors for the Technology Association of Georgia. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the board of directors at TAG, and the work that you guys do is really important. It's much more than one city. It's the statewide ecosystem that you're trying to pull together, and it's a tough job, but I'm glad to meet you and know that you're doing that here as well. So, again, from a smart cities perspective, I run the business globally for the company. I actually started the business for AT&T, mm-hmm. which a lot of people don't know. I'm an entrepreneur, so I relate to technology associations like yours and like TAG. I work closely with the chamber and the startup ecosystems, as well as the research universities around the region. I think what we're seeing across the U.S. is all of those things that I just mentioned, all those entities, those organizations, those silos, finally breaking down and coming together. Right, and it's gonna do a lot for the movement, if you will, because as I said this morning in my remarks at the press conference with the mayor and the team there, this is a journey and it's an evolution, not a revolution, and it takes time. And there's an opportunity for everybody to get involved, the entire tech ecosystem, the citizenry, the public sector, the utilities, everybody really coming together to make it happen. And we're finally starting to see that across the United States. So as one of the trends, I think that's what you're seeing. And it's taken a while because smart cities has been around for 10, 15 years, if you think about it. And really, it's just the last two that you really start to see momentum occurring in even the last year when all the silos are getting broken down and the regions are starting to work together. That's how we're going to get things done. That's how we're going to get scale. Mm-hmm. So really, really important, that's starting to happen. And then there's probably a few key areas that we're seeing a lot of traction. One is around vertical infrastructure. So think about lighting infrastructure. And I think you saw a good example of that today with Smart PDX and the utility coming together to work as one with some partners, leveraging that vertical asset, right, the light pole, which is ubiquitous across the city, right? And if you think about a light pole or lighting infrastructure, you have the ability to not only drive efficiencies through LED conversions, smart controls, which would be connected, Wi-Fi for public use, and then the sensor nodes like AT&T Digital Infrastructure by City IQ that we are deploying here in Portland. So then you add 5G to that in small cells, and you're off and running with just touching one asset, right? You're also starting to see trends around water. Mm-hmm. 6 billion gallons of water are lost on a daily basis, treated water, due to aging infrastructure here in the United States. So that's a massive environmental issue, and there's massive cost savings that can be driven for cities if you can start to solve that problem. And then you've got public safety, top of mind for everybody, and all the cities are focused on that. You've got traffic and transportation, which again we talked about today with the ribbon cutting of the AT&T Digital Infrastructure offering to solve for Vision Zero. Mm-hmm. And then you also have things like digital inclusion and economic development. And so those are really the trends that we're seeing a lot of activity around. And again, when you can pull the whole ecosystem together like you're doing here in Portland and other cities are doing across the United States, you're off and running.
That's great. One thing that was pointed out this morning, too, I think, was that the public-private partnership is very important, but there's also sort of a related partnership that's happening with a lot of these projects, and that is companies collaborating as well. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the work you guys are doing with Intel and GE and PG?
Yeah, so if you think of the Internet of Things or IoT, no one company does it all, right? It really is an ecosystem play. So the solution that we've developed together is called AT&T Digital Infrastructure, but it's GE manufacturing the sensor node. It's computer vision software from GE's lab and from Intel. It's edge processing provided by Intel inside that sensor node. It's secure connectivity provided by us, multiple types of connectivity depending on the use case. It's those nodes being FirstNet enabled, right, powered by us. And it's all brought together, with an AT&T as the prime, but working with those large corporations to build something that's scalable, that will sustain for years to come once the technology is deployed. The other opportunity, I think, for us as an ecosystem is not just the big companies, but if you look at where your organization can play a role, we have the opportunity to bring in earlier stage companies. And when you surround the earlier stage companies with the large companies that give the stability that the city wants, that the taxpayers want, if there's going to be a bond referendum or if they're going to leverage debt, then you have the ability to drive the economic development factor, the inclusion factor, because you can get the earlier stage companies involved, or even the mid-sized companies that might not be able to play outside of the region. Right, so that's really how you pull it all together. And so from an ecosystem play, it's not really just Intel and AT&T and GE Current coming together, but it's all of the companies that could benefit from that platform or leverage the data to drive value for the city and the citizens.
Mm-hmm, for sure. What are some of the things that you want to see from cities that you guys are partnering with?
Yeah, so for us, we go at this a couple different ways. And part of my role at AT&T is not just to be the general manager of our global smart cities business. I also have responsibility for IoT devices that will go on the FirstNet network, right, which is the nation's first dedicated broadband network for first responders. So think body cameras, think vehicles, first responder type applications. Then I have our drone business, right, which could be very applicable to cities, to utilities, public safety, or other use outside of delivery and all the cool things they're going to do with that.
Right.
And then I've got public-private partnerships, right? So, we see a couple of plays. One of the areas of innovation is not actually even around the technology, it's around the business models. So how do you make this all happen? If we know the technology's there, if we know that we've got an AT&T and Intel, a GE, and some earlier stage companies working together to drive technology value, how do you create a model that allows that to be consumed by the city in a way that makes sense for the citizens? And so public-private partnerships are a big deal right now. And we just announced one in San Jose where we'll be working with the city of San Jose and we'll be exchanging some value around fees that they would normally charge for small cell lease attachment rates. And in return for exchanging that value, we were going to provide them solutions like we talked about today and deployed here in Portland that provide great public benefit, but the city may not be able to afford. Right, and by doing that, we are creating a business model that allows the city to deploy faster at scale, and then also allows the providers like the AT&Ts of the world to deploy our network faster, 5G, if you will, small cells to get ready for 5G and fiber, which is going to provide public benefit as well. Right, so not only are we helping facilitate the cities being able to consume and provide this value to the citizens and the businesses that they serve, we're also helping to facilitate faster deployment of new connectivity technology that will be deployed not just in the great neighborhoods, but in all the neighborhoods across the city. And so with a partnership like that and innovation around the business models, we're really seeing an opportunity. And again, first one with San Jose, hats off to them. We have an opportunity to do it here in Portland, and we're talking to cities around the country right now.
That's great. In terms of the Portland project, Vision Zero, I know you guys are doing a bunch of other work in and around the city as well, statewide, FirstNet in particular. What are some of the things that you're kind of bullish about that you've seen so far with respect to Portland or Oregon more generally? Yeah,
so I think an opportunity here is for scale. And across the United States, there's a lot of smart projects, but there's not a lot of smart cities, right? And I've said that before, but I really mean that because cities in their traditional form still procure in a silo, right? And what I saw today in that meeting this morning at City Hall was 30 folks sitting around a table, all from different organizations across the state, right? So it was the city, it was the transportation group, it was your transit authority, it was the electric utility, it was AT&T, Intel, and others all around the table. And I think that's where Portland in the state of Oregon has a unique opportunity, right? All those folks are at the table. The hardest part to get any of this done is to get them at the table. And then once you have them at the table and everybody agrees on a strategy that can be holistic, that adds value to all of them and the folks that they serve, you then have to develop policies and procurement methodologies that allow you to consume it, deploy it, manage it, right, and eventually pay for it, right? And you can't do it without all those people at the table. And I think, the mayor's done a great job. Maurice and his team have done a great job breaking down some of those silos, pulling the right folks in the room, and that is unique to Oregon. And don't forget, we haven't talked about ag, right, and IoT in general. But IoT in general, when you talk about shipping, you talk about asset management, you talk about fleet, you talk about ag, right? That's all IoT-related technology that can be lumped into creating a smarter state, because you've got different bases across the state you've got to serve. Right. You've got farmers, right? You've got local growers. You talk about smart ag. You talk about control of pesticides using drones. There's a lot of IoT technology that can be unleashed in the state of Oregon and in this region that will truly create a unique opportunity and visibility for the region.
For sure. Well said. Anything else that you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap up?
Honestly, it's. I was flying into to Portland, and it was the first time I had flown in the daylight. I've been here 3 times, and the first time that it was daylight when I flew in, and the beauty caught me off guard. I felt like it was a cross between Ireland, Germany, and then I saw the planned development, so I knew I was back in the United States, right in my mind. But between seeing Mount Hood, I just looked and I thought, man, it's such a beautiful place, and I know the technology ecosystem is here and it's growing. I know you've got large companies here. I know you have the support of the city. The sky is the limit, and I would just, as a call to action, I would say if people want to get involved in the movement, you've got to create a groundswell. So, to the citizenry out there that's either engaged in the statewide association that you're running or other partners of yours, get involved, get engaged. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to do good for your community. There's a lot of opportunity to innovate. There's a lot of opportunity to monetize that innovation. And the more people that get involved in this groundswell, I think, the better it's going to be for the state, and the more opportunity that's going to bubble to the top for everybody.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today, and hope you enjoy the rest of your trip to Portland.
Thanks, man. It was great being here, and good luck to you guys.
Thank you.